Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the TradeStation Getting Started channel. Thank you for taking the time to learn a little bit about TradeStation. And today we're going to talk about OptionStation Pro. In this class, some of the learning objectives. Let me go ahead and mute something here because I'm getting an echo. Hold on just a moment. There we go. I just have to remind myself to mute one of these other computers that I'm using because I hear myself speaking. So I apologize for that. So as I was saying, some of the learning objectives that we're going to achieve today are pretty much loading an option chain inside of OptionStation Pro, how to do that, how to filter for monthlies, weeklies, quarterlies, how to look at different expirations. We're going to take a look at that as well. Then we're going to take a look at building spreads uh, in different ways inside of the OptionStation Pro application. You can do it manually or you can do it with preset filters. And then at the very end, we're going to show you how to trade them, how to trade spreads, how to trade single options, and how to do some activation rules on those on some of those options as well. So it's going to be a very straightforward class. If you have any questions about the functionality that I'm going to be demonstrating today, feel free to submit that question right there in the chat. We are live streaming this class on two different platforms. We're doing it on youcantrade.com. Thank you for those ones that have joined me there. And also, we are live streaming on YouTube. So for those of you that don't know about You Can Trade, I use this opportunity to invite everyone to check out the content that we have there. You Can Trade is an educational platform that is a subsidiary of TradeStation, and TradeStation hosts two channels in there. So make sure you check out the content. I'm going to talk about that in a little moment. So thank you for being here. Let's go through some disclosures. Keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I discuss in this presentation is for educational purposes only. It is not a recommendation of TradeStation. Active trading is not suitable for everyone, especially if you're trading options which carry a high degree of risks. If anybody would like to read more about these disclosures, please visit our website at tradestation.com, and you're going to find all the disclosure information there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what is it that we're doing at youcantrade.com. As I said earlier, TradeStation is hosting two channels, Getting Started with TradeStation and the Getting Started, the TradeStation Masterclass. The Getting Started with TradeStation channel is a free channel, and we do classes there every week. This is an example of that class, and we follow that class with an open Q&A session. Now, the Q&A session is an opportunity for you to ask any questions related to the TradeStation technology or TradeStation overall. So if you want to attend this open session, this Q&A that's going to happen today at 12 p.m., you do have to go to the Getting Started channel inside of youcantrade.com. So keep that in mind for our next session. And I want to invite everyone to join us, especially if you're trying to do something on TradeStation, you haven't been able to do so, I can answer those questions for you. And for those of you that are, wanting to get your TradeStation expertise to the next level, we do run the TradeStation Masterclass. It's an opportunity for us to discuss so many different topics. It is a premium channel at $59 a month, but let me talk about what is it that we do there. First of all, there is a 14-day free trial, so you can sign up for the channel, check out the content, and see if it's something you want to keep. But we have premium courses. We have strategy concepts, white papers. We meet inside the channel live every single day, so you have multiple opportunities to interact with an instructor. We have platform training. In addition to teaching you about the platform, we have discussions on technical analysis, on strategy development, and even easy language programming. All sessions are archived, so you don't have to commit to a schedule. You can watch the archive recording later, and we have multiple opportunities or open sessions where we do Q&A. We title those Ask the TradeStation Experts, and they turn to be very interactive and very good sessions for you to get your questions answered. Once in a while, we do have guests invited over. They sometimes are TradeStation employees that lead a certain department, and you get to ask them questions about what they're doing and how you want the TradeStation services to be improved and enhanced. So make sure that you check out the content. Take advantage of the 14-day free trial if you're listening to me right there on YouTube. If you are already a Masterclass subscriber, thank you for that. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to switch over here to my TradeStation platform. Let me go ahead and check my chats to make sure that there's no questions yet. By the way, for those of you that are on Zoom, meaning you access the class within You Can Trade, make sure that you set your chat windows to all panelists and attendees. There's a drop down right there at the bottom, and that way everybody sees everyone's comments. This is something that is already turned on YouTube. So if you're sending a question on YouTube, just be mindful that everybody can see it, and and do not share any private information there with us. Okay, so thank you guys for being here. Let's go ahead and talk about OptionStation Pro. OptionStation Pro is one of those platforms that is fully built into the TradeStation platform. So the first thing you have to do is open up TradeStation, which I've done already. So what you're looking at right now is my TradeStation platform. Of course, there's no workspaces open, no charting, no nothing. It's just a blank workspace. What I want from TradeStation is to go up here to the top left corner, hover over apps, and then find my OptionStation Pro button here. That's the way that you're going to open or launch OptionStation Pro. OptionStation Pro is a dedicated platform for options. Now on OptionStation Pro, you can trade equity options and you can also trade index options. If you're trying to trade options on futures, you're not going to use OptionStation Pro. You're going to use a totally different platform. We have a class on that platform as well here in the Getting Started channel. But this OptionStation Pro platform is exclusively to trade stock options and index options. Let me go ahead and maximize this window. Hopefully the size of the font here is comfortable for everyone to see on wherever you're watching this, either on YouTube or Zoom. But I want to point out, let me see if I can bring up my drawing tool, which I use all the time. IT was supposed to fix this for me, and no, it just seems like it hasn't been fixed. Let me just not use my drawing tool. What I'm going to try to do is try to move my mouse slowly so that you guys can follow me. If you look over here on the bottom left corner of OptionStation Pro, you're going to have 4 tabs. And the whole OptionStation Pro platform is divided in those 4 tabs. At any time that you open up OptionStation Pro, you're going to be in one of those tabs. OptionStation Pro remembers the last tab that you were on. So the next time you open up OptionStation Pro, it's going to go directly to that tab. So don't freak out if OptionStation Pro is not looking the way that you left it. It's just a matter of going down here and clicking on the tab. Like, for example, options. If you're used to looking at the option chains as the first thing that comes up on your screen, then maybe you just have to come here at the bottom left corner and click on the tab that you want to be on. Okay, so this is a stock. The symbol is ES. The name of the corporation is Eversource Energy. There's not much options activity for this stock. You can see that open interest, this column right here, shows 0 for many of those options contracts. And so it's lightly traded. So I'm going to switch the symbol to something different that has a lot more of options activity. So let's go here. We can use the drop down. The drop down will give you symbols that you've used recently, and also a scrolling list of things that you can add to your OptionStation Pro as well. You can also click inside the symbol box and type in what is it that you're looking for. Let's say, for example, that we want to trade some options on Apple. I'm going to put in the symbol AAPL. As soon as you start typing, the search results will give you items that match the characters that you're typing in. So I've typed in AAP, and we can see that Apple is the second from the top. I can click it, or I can just finish off, type in the symbol as I was doing, AAPL, and I can hit the enter key, and that'll load Apple right here inside of my OptionStation Pro. Another thing to take in consideration is that you're not only limited to typing in a symbol. Sometimes we don't remember what the symbol is for a particular corporation. So let's say, for example, you're looking for stocks or options on Zoom. So I can type in Zoom, and you can see that we have that, the symbol is ZM, Zoom Video Communications is the symbol that you want to trade for Zoom. All right, so let's not do that. I'm going to stay on Apple. And the first thing that I can point out right here at the top of my Option Station Pro is that you get information on the underlying asset. So let me make my font a little bit bigger because I think it's quite small on the screen. Everybody can do this on your own Option Station Pro. I feel that the font is rather small, although I do like, small fonts because you can fit more information in a screen. But sometimes in an educational setting like this, it makes sense to increase the font so we can point to things so much easier. On the top right corner of Option Station Pro, there's a settings button. I'm going to click on it. And under appearance, I'm going to change the font here to a font number 12. It tells me that I have to restart my Option Station Pro, which is fine. I take this opportunity to tell you that we have two skins on Option Station Pro. You have a dark mode and you have a light mode. So choose the one that you like best. My preference is to stay on dark, but you can, try them out and see what you like. I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to close out of my TradeStation so that the font changes take effect. And then I'm going to go to apps again and click on Option Station Pro a second time. Okay, I still don't see any questions. So remember that if you have any questions on Option Station Pro, just let me know. You can see how the font is definitely bigger. Apple is loaded again. I can see the last traded price of Apple is trading at $132 at the moment. I can see some other information. For example, I can see volume. We have about 26 million. We can resize this column if you want. 26.8 million shares traded so far. I also see historical volatility at 31%. This is using historical 90 days of historical trading activity on Apple to calculate how volatile Apple has been in the last 90 days. If you want to modify the columns here, you just have to right click and customize columns, because maybe I don't need the bid size, I don't need the ask size, maybe I don't need the high or the low. Everything else, maybe I don't need the trade size here or the trade exchange. So I can simplify the view at the top of my Option Station Pro. I click OK, and then I just have the field that I'm interested in: historical volatility, volume, bid and ask. Net change for Bank of America. This is not Bank of America. This is Apple, and any position information. This column that you see up here that says position will tell you if you have an open position for Apple. Right now, my cell is blank, meaning that I don't have shares of Apple. But if I was long Apple, it'll say the number of shares that I'm holding long. And if I was short, it'll say a negative number, letting me know that I'm short the shares of Apple. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about option chains, because they get loaded automatically based on the filters that you have up here. Let me collapse this expiration because it actually opens up the upcoming monthly option expiration. And you can see it right here. That would be May 21st of 2021. It has 30 days until expiration. And yes, that number that you see inside parentheses is the number of days that are remaining in the life of the options that are grouped there. So this is 30 days until expiration. Take a look at the other ones that have a darker shade of gray. They have a qualifier. They say weekly. So when you see the weekly, you know that those are options that have a weekly expiration. If you're not interested in trading weeklies, I know that a lot of traders, they want to concentrate on the monthly expirations just because they are the ones that have the most liquidity. They have the ones, they are the ones that have the most open interest. So if you do trade weeklies, is okay. You can just leave them on. But you have a way of letting Option Station Pro, what is it that you want to see? And that way you can hide stuff that may be in the way and you really don't want to trade it. So right here at the top, there's a filter drop down. Notice that it says none at the moment, but I can come here and say for expiration types, I just want to see monthly. So I'm going to uncheck weeklies and quarterlies and then just click on apply. And that is going to hide all those weekly expirations for me. Again, this is if you don't trade weeklies or you don't trade a specific type of options, you can always remove those. Okay, so we have expirations, days to expiration inside parentheses. And on the far right, we have a very interesting calculation, which is expected move based on implied volatility. So the first number, which is the percentage, is average implied volatility for that group of options. So for the month of May, or the options that are expiring in May, we have an implied volatility of 32%. Based on that implied volatility, it is expected that Apple will move this much, $9.81 up or $9.81 down based on that volatility. Let me open up that May expiration by just clicking on the little button here. I see the strikes right here in the middle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add more strikes. And the way that I do that, I can do that by using the strikes dropdown right here. Let me do 30 strikes. Okay. So one of the things that stands out is this shade of gray behind the strikes. What the shade of gray tells you is how far the price could go. This is the price of Apple in relationship to what the strike prices are. We already determined, looking at implied volatility over here on the right, that Apple can move $9.83 up or down. If we take those $9.82, which is almost $10, and we take a look at what the current trading price is, that could technically mean that Apple could go all the way up to 142 or down to 122. So $10 up or $10 down. That is what's reflected right here in the shade of gray. So take a look at the shade. It's almost reaching 123. And over here, the shade is almost reaching 143 based on that implied volatility. So what does that tell you? Well, it tells you what are the chances of Apple being within the shade. You know, if you're going to be trading something, and of course, the price of the underlying is going to be of utmost importance. You need to know exactly what are the probabilities that your underlying is going to move in either direction, because that could be a determinant factor in trading an option position or not. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look. I'm getting a question here. How do you roll over the expiration date? How do you close out and take profit? We're going to take a look at a couple of examples, and we're going to answer those questions as well. First of all, let's click on something. You know, the chain right here, it's clickable, especially, you know, the bid and ask button. They turn into orders as soon as you click on them. Well, they don't turn into orders. What happens is that Option Station Pro assumes that you want to trade it, and it's going to pop up the trade bar from the bottom. But over here on the top right, there's a little drop down that controls your clicking. And I believe the clicking is by default is set to trade. So when you click, it assumes that you want to trade. I had mine on Analyze Trade, which does something totally different. If you leave the click to in Analyze Trade, what happens when you click on any of these options is that it will take you to the Analysis tab right here at the bottom left, so that you can analyze the profitability profile of that particular option. For now, we're going to go back. We're going to go to Analysis and take a look. But for now, I'm just going to use Trade so you can see what happens when you click on the bid or ask. So let's say, for example, that we're interested in Apple. It's trading at 133. I see that an in the money option, it would be 132 or 133. Those are in the money. You can tell also by the lighter shade of gray right here in the chain. Yeah, these are divided in 4 quadrants if you see them, right? But the ones that have a lighter shade of gray, those are what's called the in the money options. The ones that have a dark color, those are out of the money options. So let's say, for example, that I want to trade the 132. I want to buy it. The asking price is $5.50. So if I want to buy a call option with a strike price of 132, I have to go here to the left-hand side. Yes, puts are on the right, calls are on the left. But if I click on the $5.50 for the 132 strike, I automatically get a highlight on that row just as a position, just as a visual. So you know exactly what you clicked on, because that information that you clicked on and is highlighted in blue is transferred over here to the order bar for me to trade it. I can choose to trade that option at the price that is provided here in the limit price. This price of 545 just is the mid price, or the midpoint between the bid and the ask. That's what's called the default price selected from my option, but I can choose another price if I want to. I have these 2 buttons on my trade bar that let me see what the current natural price is and what the current mid price is. Natural is just using either the bid or the ask to trade. So if you're buying, it'll naturally hit the asking price to get you a fill. And if you're selling, it will naturally hit the bid so that you can get a fill on your selling transaction. But you could use the midpoint if you want to, which is the difference or the midpoint between the bid and the ask. So let's go ahead and we can modify this. Let's say that I want to drop my entry price to $5.40. So I don't want to use the natural. I don't want to use the mid. I want to use my own price. I want to get it filled at $5.40. I'm going to wait for it to tick down a little bit. So what do I do is come over here, check the other settings. I check the duration. It's a day order. That's fine. I check the route. If everything is fine, I just click on place order. I get my confirmation window. It says I'm going to buy the May 21 132 call at 5:40. I'm going to say yes, send it. And that's it. Your order has been sent. I can see that I'm getting filled. I didn't check the quantity. I should have checked the quantity. And I think my order went through with an order quantity of 5, which is totally fine. If you look over here on the left-hand side, everybody sees that +3 in blue. That just means that I got partially filled for 3 contracts. That's pretty cool. It automatically tells you if you get filled or not. Also, if you look at the bottom of OptionStation Pro, you see what the status of your order is. Everybody sees at the bottom where it says partially filled on my simulated account. I sent an order for 5 contracts. It says leaves 2. So I got filled in 3. How do I go and manage that order? Let's say, for example, that I'm okay with the 3 contracts that it bought. I didn't check the quantity. I was shooting for just 1 contract. It got me filled on 3, which is okay. This is a simulated account. But if it had been, a live account, maybe, it's a big thing. We're talking about each contract being worth $540 times 3. We're talking about a trade that was $1,500 right here. So it's not, it's not it's not a chunk. It's a big chunk of money, for some people. At least for me, it is. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Manage tab. The Manage tab right here at the bottom left allows you to modify any order and be able to make changes to it. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to go to Manage. Can we get access to shares from Options app? You sure can, definitely. Let's say that you wanted to, well, let's talk about managing the order first, and then I'll go over and show you how you can also buy shares of Apple from within OptionStation Pro. Although, yes, okay, perfect. So you can see that the Manage tab right here is kind of divided in 2 panels. We have a panel on the top, in this big box right here at the top, and then you have a panel at the bottom right here. So the top keeps track of our orders, and the bottom keeps track of our positions. So right here at the top, I can see that there's a category that says partially fill alive. And I have my order in there. If I want to see more details, there's a plus here to the left-hand side. Let's see, that doesn't open up. I think this is it. It's a buy to open. Notice that the quantity, it's 5. Right now, my limit price was $5.40. It tells me that my quantity filled is 3. So I know that I have 2 remaining. If I wanted to cancel the remaining 2, all I need to do is right click here and say cancel order. Okay, that'll cancel. It's a partial cancel though. We're just canceling the remaining 2. Okay, so take a look at the bottom. We see the information bar again. It says we got filled on 2. You are out on, yes, you got filled on 3 and you are out on 2. So I have a position on shares on these contracts of Apple. Let me open up right here where you see Apple. I'm going to open that up and it'll give me information about what is it that I'm holding on Apple. I'm just showing 3 contracts of this particular call. Let's say, for example, that I wanted to buy shares, or maybe let's see, I just bought a call, so I have the right to buy them. Let me go ahead and do something. Let me go ahead and sell short the same amount or the corresponding amount of shares. I'm going to sell short 300 shares of Apple. You are expecting, let's see. Yeah, that would not be, this would work more like a stop loss at 132. I can buy or can sell short the shares at 133. This is more like a target. So, yeah. Okay. If it goes, so if it goes against you, let's say that you sell short the 300 shares. If it goes against you, meaning that the prices go up, you still have this call with the ability to buy them back at 132. So if I wanted to sell short 300 shares of Apple, I just have to go up here where I see the asset panel and I say bid. I just click on the bid and it'll open up the trade bar at the bottom. I just have to adjust the quantity here. I can say minus 300 because I'm going to take a short trade. And let's say that we want to do a natural buy or sell short. Place the order. I'm going to say yes. Okay, so my order is up here. I selected there we go. We just got filled. I selected a price of 133.21. My fill price is 133.21 exactly. So now I have my two positions right there for Apple. If I wanted to combine those into a spread, I could. I could take those three contracts, combine them with the equity share by just clicking and dropping one on top of the other. Doesn't matter which direction you do it, but if I grab my three calls and I drop them on top of my 300 share Apple, take a look that it recognizes it as a covered married stock because we did trade the corresponding amount of shares and it recognizes that as a spread. So if I wanted to close this whole trade, I could. Let's say, for example, that I'm going to right click on this particular position and I'm going to close this trade if the price drops to 130. If it drops to 130, I'm going to take my profits and I want to do that with let's do a limit order. Yeah, we can do that. Let's see what we can do. If I right click here and I say close this position, it'll give me the limit price right here. But this limit price takes into account the price of the option in combination with the price of shares of Apple. So what I'm technically doing is taking a look at the price of the option at this moment. I don't know what the price of the option is going to be if Apple drops to 130. So technically, I can do something here. I can say, well, let's do a market order. But sometimes, it's really scary if you're doing a market order on an option. But if there's a lot of liquidity and the spreads are tight, sometimes you get good fills. It's scary when, you're trading something that's lightly traded and you could be, filled with a very unfavorable price. I'm going to do a market order here, but I'm going to set an activation rule that says that if Apple drops to 130, I want to get out and take my profits and close my call also, So let's go here to the ellipsis. I'm going to set a price activation. I'm going to set AAPL here. I'm going to add it. If Apple trades below, and I'm going to say 130, so it has to trade below 130, not at 130. I want to click OK. That is going to be an activation for my order. Let me go ahead and place that order. I get my confirmation again. I'm going to say yes. And if you look up here, that order has been received. It's interesting that we were able to send a market order. This is a market order. You can see it right there. But it doesn't get filled because there's an activation rule assigned to it. Now, I don't see the activation rule information right here, and I can add a column for it. So let's go over here to the little menu, not this one, to the little wrench here that says configure, and I'm going to click on customize column. There's a column that is not visible by default, and I would recommend you add it if you're going to be doing the activation rules. So this is advanced. I'm going to add it, and then I'm just going to click OK. So that sends the column all the way here to the very end. I usually like to put it somewhere else, but that's fine. Let me just open it up, and you can see how it has the activation information there. Apple less than 130. So that's what it's waiting for. So these types of orders, you can set them very nicely right here in OptionStation Pro. So we just answered a question how to close out and take a profit by using this example. I think that's what one of the questions that we were getting here in the YouTube platform. If you wanted to roll over, let's say that I want to reset this position. Let me go ahead and right click and reset the position. If I wanted to roll over this call, I just have to right click on it, and notice that you have the option to roll this position. So that's something that you can do very quickly here as well. Okay. How do we operate in TradeMan? This is the question here on YouTube. How do we operate in Trade Manager after the options have been filled? Close out for profit, roll over, etc. Yes, you have certain order entry functionality if you go back to the Trade Manager, of course. Like for example, I have a position open on some calls, and I have some shares of Apple. If I go back to my TradeStation, let me show you what I mean by that. If I go back to my TradeStation and I go to apps and I open up the Trade Manager, I can manage those positions from here. The only problem, let me show you where. Well, first of all, I have my positions. In my positions tab, I have my Apple long 3 and I have my Apple short 300. So the same positions are here. I can right click on any of these and I can close from here too. And if I go to the orders tab, I can also, these are my active orders right here at the top, the ones that have a gray color. I can right click and cancel those orders as well. So yes, you can manage your orders from the Trade Manager. The only problem, and this is something really, really big and important to remember, if you want to manage or do all sorts of spread management, the Trade Manager is not very good at doing that. So if you want to manage a spread, I would recommend that you go to OptionStation Pro to do that, okay? All right. Is there days to expiration in Trade Manager? I doubt there is. Here we have our positions. We have our position right there. I'm not sure if there's an additional column that you can do. If I go to settings, if you go to settings here and you click on window or columns, you have all these different columns that you can put in, and I don't see days to expiration. So yes, I would recommend you do all your trading on OptionStation Pro, especially if you're trading spreads, okay? Let's go ahead and take a look at some other functionality before the class is over. I think we only have about 10 more minutes. For any additional questions, remember that we're going to do a Q&A right after this class. So the Q&A starts at 12 noon Eastern time, 12 noon. But the class is only available within the Getting Started with TradeStation channel on You Can Trade. So you have to go to youcantrade.com, look for the Getting Started with TradeStation channel. That's the channels tab. And that's where you join the Q&A. So make sure that you make a note of that, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at other functionality. Let's go to analysis. Let's suppose that I want to analyze this call. I'm going to right click. Oh, before I even analyze, let me show you how to build spreads. If I go back to the chain, we have a spread selector up here that allows you to select a spread, and we will organize the strikes or the expirations depending on what you're selecting. Let's suppose that we do a vertical, and that'll pair up the strikes. You can see how it's using the 128 and the 129, the 129 and the 130. If you wanted to skip some strikes in between, let's say that you wanted to do the 128 and the 130 combination, but you don't see it here. That's because it's always grabbing, the strikes that are next to each other. But you can tell the chain to skip strikes in between. Right here under filter, there is a spread width. So spread, it just makes your spread wider by just selecting a different number. If I select 2, it's going to skip a strike in between. If I click on apply, then I look over here and I see the 128 and the 130, the 120. So it's skipping a strike in between and organizing your verticals this way. The nice thing about doing it this way is that you can see a combined price between the two strikes. So the bid and ask combines your pricing, and you can see what the price of the vertical is. I find that to be interesting. If you don't like to use the vertical or the spread selector up here, let me go back to single. You can still create spreads by individually clicking on the legs that you want to add. Now, in order for you to do a multiple selection, you have to hold down the control key on the keyboard. So let's say, for example, that I'm going to, let's say, I'm going to buy the 125. So I click on the asking price of that, and I'm going to sell the 128. So I can click on the bid price of that and take a look that clicking on the ask creates a blue highlight. Clicking on the bid creates a red highlight so that you can see which one is short and which one is long. Blue are long, red is short, and you can see which side of the market you are taking a trade on. Okay, so those two legs that I clicked on are automatically transferred here at the bottom inside of my trade bar, assuming that I want to trade a spread. So again, the only way that you can have a multiple selection here on multiple legs is holding down the control key as you click on the legs that you want to trade. And all those legs are going to be sent at the bottom here in my trade bar. Okay, so I can trade this spread. Let me do a market order. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to do a market order, and then I'll show you exactly why I'm doing that. Okay. Okay, so I get that was received. Let me go to manage the market order, and it's not getting filled. That's interesting. Maybe because of liquidity. Maybe the one that I picked. Well, the one that I picked has 50,000 open interest. This is a trading simulator, by the way, but the 128 has only 51 contracts. So that could be a determining factor right here of not getting filled. Sometimes we find issues like this inside of the simulator, which is fine. Let me go ahead and go back here to manage. Let me cancel that vertical. Let me pick another strike and see if that makes a difference. I'm going to pick the 125, hold down my control button, and pick the 130, which has 60,000 open interest. Let's do this one. And I'm going to do a market order on that. Okay. And my order was rejected. Why would my order be rejected? If you get it rejected, we open up the rejected here. You can see the information right there. The order was rejected. The OptionStation Pro platform doesn't give you a lot of information about why an order gets rejected. And if you look at the information bar down here, it gives you, it starts giving you the reason, but it doesn't really complete it. So I'm going to have to go back here to my TradeStation and find out the reason why my order was rejected. This time I do have to open up the Trade Manager. I'm going to go to the Messages tab, and at the very top, I should have that reject message. No opposite side limit for leg 2. No opposite side limit for leg 2. So it's not very clear. It seems like I was selecting a valid leg. It could be, an issue with the simulator, and that's okay. Sometimes technical software sometimes is not, 100% accurate. And this is just a simulator. It's intended for you to learn the functionality. I wouldn't expect that, error to show up on a live account. But let's go here to my option chain again. Let me close out this 132 call that I have. Notice that I can do that very quickly by clicking on the +3 right here in my option chain. So I'm going to click there. It transfers the information here. I'm going to set that as a market order and place the order. And it still rejects the order. You're long 3 shares. Let's see what's happened here. Let's go back to my TradeStation. You're okay. That's a stupid mistake in my part. You are long 3 shares with 3 remaining on sell order. So what happens is that TradeStation says, hey, you have an active order already to sell these shares. You cannot sell them again. That's technically what it's saying. So I have to go here to my OptionStation Pro, manage, and I have to cancel that order that was received, the one that I generated on that covered married call. So let me go ahead and cancel the order. Now, if I go back to options, let me try to close this trade. I'm going to close that market, place the order, and say yes. Okay, that was filled. Now I'm going to put in that spread again. I'm going to buy the 125, hold down the control key, and I'm going to sell the 130. Let's do this at market. Order rejected. So it's a rejected order, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same error message about not having no opposite side limit for leg 2. That's fine. Let's go back here to my OptionStation Pro. I'm going to do something a little bit closer. Let's say that we want to do the 132 and the 133. Let's buy that at market. So that gets filled. You can see the contracts out here. If I go to the Manage tab and I look at my Apple holdings, you can see that I have my shares, the 300 shares that I went short earlier, and I have my 2 calls. Every time that you get filled on a spread, OptionStation Pro will list your individual legs to allow you to manage them in any way you want. So I can right click on one of the legs, and I can close that individually. So the fact that I traded it as a spread doesn't mean that I have to handle it as a spread. I can handle it in any way that I want. But if I do want to see that as a spread, I can do a very quick combine by just clicking and dragging and dropping any of these legs on top of the other. So let me grab the long call and drop it on top of the short call, and notice that you get a vertical down here that you can manage the P&L on a vertical status. But you can always right click and reset that position if you want to break it apart. Let me show you something else. Let me go back here to options. I'm going to trade another spread here, but this time I'm going to go short on the put side, the 134, and I'm going to go long the 135 put. Let me trade this as a market order. Place the order right now. Okay, that order was received, and it's not getting filled on the put side. Maybe another indication that we have issues with the execution server. That should have gotten filled as a market order. We have some open interest. Let me add volume to this view. I always like to look at volume in addition to open interest to see how the options are trading. So I'm going to go over here to the wrench and customize columns, and I'm going to look for volume. You can add any other columns here if you want. If you want to, track the Greeks, if you want to do other calculations, you can just add them. Let's click OK. And you can see that volume today for those 2 puts that I just submitted they're not low. We have 1,300 contracts on the 134 and 613 already traded on the 135. My trade is still waiting to get filled. If I go here to my received category, is right there. It is a market order, so I'm just waiting for the execution. But okay, if it's not getting filled, I won't stress about it. This is still a simulator. Things like this don't really happen on a live account because the market order will go directly to the exchange, and there wouldn't be a holdup on the execution. Once it's a simulator, sometimes things may happen. But you can see that you can manage your positions by clicking and dragging right here inside of the positions panel, which is very, very, very useful. Okay. I'm getting a question here on YouTube. Can you put a stop loss on options? Yes, most definitely. Let's say, for example, that I want to put in a stop right here for this vertical. If I right click and I say close this position, notice that it gives me a credit of 50 cents by closing that vertical. I can say I want to do a stop market order if the credit drops to, let's say, instead of being 50 right now, if the credit drops to 25, meaning that I would get less, right, for this closing transaction, then I want to get stopped. Okay, let's go ahead and place that order and see what happens. And the order goes through. So now I have a stop that is keeping track of the prices of those 2 calls that I traded. And whenever the credit is 25 cents, it'll just get me out. So not sure if that's what you wanted to do. You can also set a stop based on the price of the underlying. For example, if I come here and I reset this, right click, and I reset this position, let's say that I want to do one of these single, let's say the long call. I'm going to right click and say close this position, but I'm going to do a market order with an activation rule, similar to the same order or the order that we did originally when we were looking at the price of Apple to activate the trade. That's another option that you can, or another way that you can trade a stop loss. Okay. Let's see another question here on YouTube. Why isn't there a simple way to set a price alert for a stock? There are multiple ways in which you can set a price alert on stocks, and they're pretty easy. If you want, join me in the Q&A inside of You Can Trade right now at 12 p.m. and I'll give you, different ways in which you can do that. But that would be, off topic from OptionStation Pro, and I just want to make sure that I, stay on this topic. But if you do want to learn how to set up quick alerts on price, I can show you that to you on TradeStation. So again, the Q&A for those that didn't catch it the first time is inside of the Getting Started with TradeStation channel on youcantrade.com. So go to youcantrade.com and find the channel there. It's a free session, so nothing you don't have to be concerned about paying anything. You do have to, if you're not a member of the You Can Trade community, you do have to become a member, which is very simple. Just name and email, and that's it. But once you become a member, you get access to the Q&A. Do we get a better price if we place a spread order rather than separately? Do we get a better price if we place a spread order other than separately? Well, there's two different things, Yeah, you can trade, the legs individually and put in a limit price to each one of them. I guess it would be the same, if you're trading them individually or in a spread. If you want to get a fill on the spread, if you want the exchange to handle your order as a spread, you do have to send them as a spread. You could technically, trade these individually, but I guess you get a better handling of the order if you send it as a spread, if you want to trade it as a spread. A lot of options traders out there just trade single legs, and that's totally fine. But if you do want to do spreads, I think that would be the preferred way to do it. All right, let's see. I'm getting a question here from on Zoom. Is this session recorded? Yes, it is recorded, and it's going to be available inside of the Getting Started channel. So once you go to the dashboard, and that's another thing, if you want to watch a recording of this class, you also have to come to youcantrade.com. And once you open up the dashboard of the Getting Started with TradeStation channel, you're going to see the archives at the bottom. So if you're looking for education on the TradeStation platform or mobile apps or Futures Plus, you're going to see an archive session there for you guys. Okay. Let's see. Marie is asking, can you please show us how to read the P&L in the analysis tab? Now an expiration still confusing to me. For sure. Let's see. Let's take a look. I'm going to take a look at this spread. So let me go and find this into a vertical. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say analyze the duplicate. So this will take me to the analysis tab. Okay, there's a lot of information going on here. Let me go ahead and try to simplify this a little bit. So I'm going to delete these slices. I don't want to see my real positions. So I'm going to come over here at this portion. I'm going to say show only simulations. So that way it just simplifies the view. But yeah, you can combine simulated positions with your real positions and see what effect this would have on your profitability. The reason why we have two different lines here in this graph is because whatever we traded, in this particular case, we're trading a vertical, has two different valuations. It has a valuation right now, and it has a valuation at expiration. And the valuations are different because there is a component in the valuation that varies between now and expiration, and that is time. Time is a portion of the value of a spread. In this particular, this vertical. So as it approaches expiration, that value is going to change. And that's why the valuation changes from now to expiration. So what is my spread worth right now? Well, that is what it's represented by that yellow line. And you can see that it has a smoother look than the expiration because there's different factors that can affect the P&L, and that's why you get a smoother line. But once it approaches expiration, you get this very straight line because we've stripped all the time valuation from that spread, and we're just looking at the strike price and what the price of the underlying is. So that's the difference between the two lines. What is it worth right now? What is it worth at expiration? You see the dates over here on the top right corner. Notice how the yellow says now, and it says days to expiration still 30. And what the P&L tells you is what is the price of that vertical based on the price of the underlying. So that's where we bring in these price slices. I find them very convenient because if you add one, it's going to give you an anchor right here at where the last traded price is. So the vertical line that shows up when you use a price slice, the first one is going to be pinned to the last. And this is going to update based on that last price. And it tells you what the theoretical P&L is right now. So for example, if Apple were to go to 135 or 140 right now, there's a big spike in price. Apple skyrockets, reaches 140. What effect would that have on your spread? Well, I can bring my vertical line right here and I can drag it to 140. There we go, 140. You can see that would give us a theoretical P&L of $103 if we had this spread in our positions. So that's very cool that we can see what effect our P&L would have, or what effect a movement on Apple or any underlying would have on our P&L. If we hold this spread, now this is interesting. If we hold this spread until expiration, and let's say that Apple is still at $140, I can just change the plot here. And there we go. So in 30 days, when this spread expires and Apple is still $140, I make $237 on this particular option. So that's a little bit of graphing. So there's a lot more that's going on here, and we can save that for a deeper dive. What we do inside of the masterclass, we go deeper into TradeStation technology and show you all the intricacies here. Okay, so this is it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here inside of the TradeStation Getting Started class. Remember that we're going to do a Q&A in 4 minutes. Starts at 12 noon today, right now. So if you want to join me, make sure that you join the Getting Started with TradeStation channel inside of You Can Trade. Goodbye. Have a wonderful afternoon, and thank you for being part of this class. Bye-bye, everyone.